This is NIMASA This Week. I am Frank. Health, they say, is wealth. NIMASA believes this also. That's why it took time out to educate its stakeholders on the deadly scourge that is ravaging lives called hepatitis. Well, a report on that disease this episode. Now, have you ever heard of an agency trying to inform the general public on how to do business with them, how to coax the general public to come into the industry that agency is embedded in? Well, that agency is NIMASA, and that industry is, of course, the maritime industry. We have a report on how NIMASA is trying to tell the general public about the benefits of getting into the business. And also, NIMASA has a strict reference on women. It is time to encourage women to get into the maritime industry, and that is what NIMASA is doing. Plus, we have an interview. One of our executive directors of cabotage services, labor and cabotage services, as a matter of fact, is going to be our subject for our interview segment. So in other words, is it action-packed? Of course it is. I bid you welcome on board to NIMASA This Week. Hepatitis refers to an inflammatory condition of the liver, and it is commonly caused by viral infection. But there are other causes of hepatitis. It's a disease that is now considered a major cause of death amongst human beings. The United Nations has set aside a day to draw attention to the dangers associated with this deadly disease. And the management of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, also did her bit to create awareness among stakeholders in the maritime sector.
To commemorate the World Hepatitis Day, NIMASA gathered staff and stakeholders in the multipurpose facility at the agency's resource center. Various medical practitioners, amongst others, were on hand to deliver presentations on dangers associated with the hepatitis disease. The Director General of NIMASA, Dr. Dakuku Adol Peterside, who was represented by the agency's Director Maritime Labour Services, Malam Ibrahim Jibrili, noted that NIMASA's management is committed to providing enabling environment for a healthy human component in the maritime sector.
As an agency, therefore, and at the forefront of capacity building in the maritime sector, NIMASA considers the project of finding the missing millions, defeating the hepatitis statistics as an imperative to meeting the agency goals of capacity development for the maritime industry. For these reasons, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to declare this event open and to welcome everyone here today as we join us in the very important effort to increase the national awareness of hepatitis and the global and national effort to find this disease.
The head of the Search and Base Clinic in NIMASA, Dr. Anslem Nwanze, urged Nigerians to embrace tests to determine early detection as a solution to the spread of the disease.
As we mark the World Hepatitis Day, we call on you to be ready to take action. Through this awareness that we're going to create, I want you all to sit back and learn more about this debilitating ailment. In our quest to find the missing millions, we have today partnered with a world-renowned multinational drug maker, GlaxoSmithKline, to carry out voluntary screening in order to join us and fight this cause.
Hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and alcoholic hepatitis, amongst others, are considered the most prevalent amongst human beings.
All the food you eat, before it gets converted to useful avenue for you to utilize the energy that you get from the food, the liver must play a role, because the liver secretes enzymes that you use to digest the food. Even the drugs you drink, the liver has to play a role for an ordinary anti-malaria drug to work and free you from that malaria. So you see, because of the importance of the liver, an injury to the liver, which is what hepatitis is all about, can really harm you.
Medical practitioners were on hand to carry out instant tests for all stakeholders who were interested.
What we are trying to create is awareness for people, because like they say, prevention is better than cure. So rather than have millions of course we know hepatitis B is not curative, we can treat it to an extent where the person can live a normal life, but why don't we prevent it? So the best way, we brought in GSK to talk about the vaccines, and of course before then we had talked about the clinical features, what you see when you have hepatitis: yellowness of the eyes, pains on your right side of the stomach, you feel tired. There's some signs and symptoms that you'll see that should make you go to the hospital. I prefer prevention. You shouldn't wait to see signs and symptoms before you get to the doctor. Try and be tested.
A screening test will let you know who is having hepatitis and who is not. And then based on who is not, you will now be able to recommend vaccination and other behavioral modification. For those that are positive after the screening test, we will need to recommend them for treatment.
Introducing the new face of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. We are charting the direction for a maritime and regulating the industry for a better, bigger, and more economically stable Nigeria. Evolved to serve you better. We are NIMASA. New face, rejuvenated service. NIMASA, changing the tides in your favor.
During the celebrations of the Day of Seas and Oceans in Lagos, journalists ambushed the NIMASA Director General, Dr. Dakuku Peterside, and he had a lot to tell them. Here are some excerpts from that conversation.
The blue economy is all about economic activities that is dependent on the sea and ocean, whether for energy, mineral exploitation, whether for transportation, whether for whatever economic activity that is dependent on the seas and ocean. Now, so for us as a country, before now, we never looked at it in an integrated manner, in a holistic manner, if you choose. We're always looking at shipping as an isolated activity. They have a blue economy ministry. We have that in Mauritania and in a few other countries, but we don't have. Ours is located in different ministries of the country. Ministry of Agriculture, you've got fisheries. Ministry of Transportation, you've got water transportation. Then Ministry of Solid Minerals, you've got mineral exploitation. Then, of course, NIMASA anchors underwater mineral exploitation. But once we're looking at it holistically, we've been able to raise awareness. That's something nobody can take away. The country is now formulating a blue economy policy. We've raised awareness. It's now become an issue. Then lately, there was an economic recovery laboratory processes. And one of the things they looked at is the contribution of waterborne transportation and, of course, the blue economy. Lately, we're also engaging with the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. If you look at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics publication, you see that for waterborne transportation or the blue economy, it started zero. They don't have data on that. But we're engaging with them, and right now we're also looking at the possibility of generating data to the extent of defining the contribution of the blue economy to our GDP.
One of the major functions of NIMASA is to develop local capacity in terms of shipping in Nigeria. Now, there's a whole department in the agency whose responsibility it is to see that this happens. Today, we shall be taking you through the functions of Shipping Development Department of NIMASA. Let's get you to know NIMASA a little better.
Momo, let's go the road, let's go.
One of the cardinal functions of NIMASA, according to Section 1 of the NIMASA Act, is to promote the development of indigenous commercial shipping. To ensure that this is effectively done, the Shipping Development Department was created. The department has promotional and regulatory units, which takes care of trade development in Nigeria. How has NIMASA fared in expanding Nigeria's seaborne trade? Mr. Anthony Ogadi is the head of the department.
shipping is all about availability of cargo. You might have the best of vessels, but if you don't have the cargo that has to move the trade, it won't work. So, and Nigeria is so endowed both in the hydrocarbons and in the dry cargo, the hydrocarbons being the crude oil, where we have the propensity to the comparative advantage of being the 6th largest world producer of crude oil. So the wet cargo is an advantage to us to make sure that Nigerians participate in this trade. And also we generate a lot of raw materials which we export out. And also Nigerians to consume finished products which comes in as import in the dry cargo. So the ability for the country to now participate to ensure that, yes, what is due to Nigerians are carried by Nigerians. Because the Act specifies about 50% of this cargo should be affreighted by Nigerians. So the department is now has this responsibility to ensure that this aspect of our responsibility is carried out. What and how do we do it? We must see how we can bring the prospective shippers and bring the prospective shipping companies together so that they will be able to participate in this.
You have staff of the department in their various workstations just to ensure customer satisfaction. In recent times, the narrative seems to have changed as the approach has changed in shipping development.
High time we stopped the issue of guessing if this vessel called or not. If anybody tells you NIMASA is guessing, it's a thing of the past. We now see everything in the maritime domain.
Another major function of this department is the monitoring of all shipping activities on Nigerian waters. In this surveillance room, using artificial intelligence, NIMASA sees all vessels and their activities in the harbor and at the anchorage.
We have two major products that we use here. One is the ship logger. It's a maritime domain awareness system deployed by KMBTS specific. So we have that system which provides information on vessels that are coming into our territorial water on a minute-by-minute basis. That system is a live system. So every vessel activity is logged onto that system where we are able to watch, do a screen watch, and then take action on vessels that are not complying in terms of some of the irregular things they do on the waterways, like switching off their AIS and all that.
What does it do for us? We get first-hand information. Before any other third party comes in, we interact directly with the master of the vessel and get all necessary information required from the vessel and from the master to do our work more diligently.
Another initiative of the current administration at NIMASA is the final billing system, which sees that all voyages into Nigerian waters have a timeline for its processing.
Within a fortnight that a vessel departs from our port, we should be able to articulate all the information of the operations of that vessel from our port offices, from our sister organizations, MPA, NNPC, DPR, name it, customs. We bring all these figures and we have a forum called the Cargo Reconciliation Forum, where all concerned stakeholders, with all the responsible departments in NIMASA, shipping development, finance, audit, research, meet in a room at a particular time, designated time, and agree on a particular figure for every voyage of the vessel. Going forward, at the end of the day, we come up with that figure that will form the basis for your final bill. So if your vessel calls and leaves Nigeria, be reassured that in the fortnight, you as the agent, you as the ship owner should be able to get the final figures of your transactions as far as NIMASA responsibilities are concerned.
On a final note, what does the future hold for Nigerian Shipping Company?
It belongs to Nigerians. We are so endowed. We have all the institutions to drive this process. All we need is collaboration. We should stop working in our various silos and come out and collaborate. Customs must collaborate with NIMASA, NIMASA must collaborate with MPA, MPA must collaborate with Shippers Council. Everybody in the maritime industry must collaborate to see that we drive the process. And those we are doing this for must come out and assist us, advocate for these things because it is theirs.
Welcome back to NIMASA This Week, a program that takes you into the tributaries, into the labyrinths of the oh-so complicated maritime industry in Nigeria. Now, remember that old saying, it's a man's world? Well, not exactly. In shipping, it is meant for males and females to participate in the maritime industry. Now, some pressure groups have been encouraging women to get involved and more active. And NIMASA, on its part, has been encouraging these wonderful women to come on board. Now, a group of women in African shipping paid a visit to NIMASA recently. This is what it was all about.
Historically, shipping has been a male-dominated industry. However, the management of NIMASA has constantly restated its commitment to encourage a female gender to take up leadership roles in the sector. This fact came again to the fore when members of the Association of Women in Maritime Africa paid a courtesy call to the agency. The team, led by their president, Mrs. Rosa Sabrino from Angola, commended the leadership role of Nigeria on the continent.
There is no way for a woman to survive without the support of its maritime administration. Why? Because WIMA was created by IMO, which is an intergovernmental organization. This means that WIMA is very linked to the public sector. The difference between WIMA and the WISTA is that the WIMAs are the open doors for WISTA. WIMAs are very close to government. WIMA are the ones who make the business of the WISTA association to work.
The NIMASA Executive Director Admin and Finance, Mr. Bashiru Jamo, who led the agency's management to receive the team, noted the need to encourage women to take up shipping as a career. He commended the role of women who have invested their treasures in the maritime sector.
But I think this is one of the best platforms that we can use to cajole the African countries to give us awards on the brighter gold without necessary sweating.
I spoke to the Executive Director of Labor and Cabotage Services, Alhaji Gambo Ahmed. I went to the NIMASA headquarters. Right in his office, he was busy, and we just made an incursion into his office and stole an interview. Please watch. Hello and welcome to the interview segment of NIMASA This Week. I'm handling it this time, not Cordelia. Cordelia is on sabbatical, but she'll be back real soon. Well, you have to make do with me. In front of me, I have someone who I'm sure in the previous episodes of the program you have seen in our reports and our features. Well, the reason why he's playing a predominant role is because he is the Executive Director, Maritime Labor and Cabotage Services. I'm talking about Mr. Gambo Ahmed. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you and welcome.
Yes, thank you, sir. We know very well that there's always been a major challenge of the maritime sector. Labor has been always a major challenge. Has the agency, through your help, been able to grapple with this scourge?
As you know, when you talk of labor, you're talking of human beings. And typically, anywhere you talk about human beings, there will be challenges. But what we have been able to do is, like we have said before, consistent and persistent interaction, engagement with all stakeholders in the maritime sector. And that I believe we have been able to do very well, that we have enjoyed relative peace and harmony in the sector. I'm sure you have not heard of any protest, any strike, any downfall in the last couple of years.
Yes, yes. We all know that NIMASA is the one that came up with that innovation, the NJIC. And you, of all people, are the only person to tell us about that. How did it start? What inspired it? And how is it doing?
Membership of NJIC includes the key stakeholders, the operators, our sister agency, NPA, Federal Ministry of Transportation, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment. We, on our side, are witnesses. We bring together the employers of labor and the representatives of the employees, so that whatever decision is taken is understood, is appreciated by all concerned.
Yes. I know NIMASA internally undertakes some training of its own staff. Now, what about the training of dock workers? Is it NIMASA's responsibility? If so, or if not, has NIMASA delved into that, the training of dock workers?
Yes, in the NIMASA Act mandates that we also help in the training of even the dock workers.
Okay.
And that we have been doing religiously every year. If you look at our budget, you see a provision for training of dock workers, seafarers, external ones,
Yes, yeah.
beyond what we do to our own staff. And we also intervene when we see need, like the much talked about Nigerian Seafarers Development Program, NSDP. Typically, it's not NIMASA's business to train seafarers to that level. But when we noticed that we don't have Nigerians, especially when you talk of internationally going vessels, you hardly find any Nigerian seafarers there. Even our own local trade here, within Nigerian waters, we still have foreigners. So we deliberately set up that program to intervene so that we'll have enough seafarers, not only to crew the vessels that trade in our coastal waters here, but also even export the seafarers with a view to make earning foreign exchange for Nigeria.
Recently, the MLC 2006 convention was amended, recently. Now, can you tell us how it can benefit the Nigerian maritime sector? Is it to our benefit, or, it's just an international policy that would just benefit the people that have been, they are more advanced than us? Is it beneficial to Nigeria?
No, the MLC is beneficial, 2006 is beneficial to all, whether Nigerians or non-Nigerians. It is about the welfare of the seafarers. It is about the welfare of those who work in the maritime sector. In the past, you have had instances of seafarers being abandoned. Nobody talks or thinks of what happens to them after work. And MLC 2006, as amended, is just to ensure that these people enjoy life when they are working, enjoy life when they are not working, enjoy life whatever the circumstance. They are properly and clearly protected. So it benefits Nigerians just as it benefits non-Nigerians.
The new cabotage compliance strategy, is it so far so good?
So far so good. The strategy was aimed at, say, zero waiver, so that people can sit up and wake up.
Yes.
Like I said, cabotage came into effect in terms of implementation in 2004. If from that 2004 we had taken the cabotage matter very seriously, perhaps today we will not be talking about capacity. But people just relaxed. They think, all it matters is just go, they charge you some money, you pay, and move on. Nobody bothered about building the infrastructure here. Nobody bothered about training the required manpower. Because they felt small money, just pay and go. And that was why that strategy was put together. See, there's no waiver. Sit up and face it.
Well,
so it's working. You can see the number of seafarers on our local trade here is increasing.
yes.
The statistics are there to show it's increasing.
Okay, so I want to thank you for this this wonderful interview. It has really, shown us about the possibilities in terms of boosting the Nigerian maritime sector through cabotage. And under your leadership, I want to say well done so far, and thank you for giving us your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Time sure flies when you're having a good time. We've come to the end of another wonderful episode of NIMASA This Week. Now, before we go, let's talk about an alliance between NIMASA and the Nigerian Heart Foundation. Now, there's a press conference organized in preparation of a golf charity tournament that's going to take place on the 1st of September 2018. Now, what is this tournament all about? Well, it is about creating awareness as regards the dangers of heart disease, how to prevent them, and why you should go for a regular checkup. Now, NIMASA is teaming with the Nigerian Heart Foundation, as I said, and they hope that this year, this awareness is going to spread to more Nigerians and as such, save more lives.
In terms of physical activity, where we are now partnering with NIMASA today, because we know physical activity we interpret as exercise is very important to the heart. If you undertake exercise, because the commonest cause of death of #1 heart disease in the African population today is high blood pressure.
I'd like to say a very big thank you to NIMASA. Organizations have shied away from assisting. But for you to come out to say, look, we're behind you, we'll say a big thank you to you.
So we've come to the end of the program. I'm going to be back next week. In 7 days, we don't really know what's going to happen in the Nigerian maritime sector. But whatever happens, NIMASA This Week will be here to tell you about it. Go to our social media networks to find out anything you can about getting into the shipping business, about finding out, things that you didn't know about. If you're confused or befuddled about something, just go there to find out, all right? Because it is a wonderful, large industry. My name is Frank. I want to tell you to keep a date with us in the next time NIMASA This Week airs on this channel. Thank you for watching. Cheers.